It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. The pressing security situation and the nation's apparent food crisis were the primary focus during yesterday's emergency meeting between President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the governors from the 36 states. The long-standing controversy surrounding state police may be on the path to a resolution following the meeting. State House correspondent Adesua Omoran reports.
It's an emergency meeting convened by President Bola Tinubu with state governors to discuss crucial national issues, including security concerns and the high cost of foodstuff. Following extensive closed-door discussions, the Minister of Information highlights key outcomes, notably plans for the establishment of state police.
Mr. President and the state governors have also discussed the possibility of improving the numeric strength of forest rangers, to train them so that they can keep our forest and our borders very safe. Now, there is also a discussion around the issue of state police. The federal government and the state governments are mulling the possibility of setting up state police. Of course, this is still going to be further discussed. A lot of work has to be done in that direction.
This move to establish state police signifies a departure from the past practices, with both federal and state government acknowledging its necessity in response to the deteriorating security situation. However, the Nigerian constitution will have to be amended for this to happen. The debate has seen the federal government emphasizing the need to prevent abuse by subnationals, while the state governors advocate for a decentralized police force closer to the people. Although modalities for the decision have not been worked out, a bill for the establishment of state police is set to undergo a second reading at the moment in the House of Representatives. But unanswered questions loom, such as the apolitical nature of the police, concerns about human rights abuses, funding adequacy, and potential impacts on national unity. And despite ongoing challenges, the president and governors expressed gratitude to security agencies for their efforts in maintaining a secure environment. Beyond security matters, the leaders also discussed the country's food crisis, stressing the importance of increased investment in agriculture.
First, the National Security Advisor, the Director General of the State Services, the Inspector General of Police have been directed to coordinate with the state governors to look at the issue of those holding commodities. Number two, a decision has also been taken that in the interest of our country, there will be no need for food importation at this point. Nigeria has the potential to feed itself and even be a next exporter of food items to other countries.
Thank you.
In concluding the meeting, President Tinubu and the governors established a committee to continue discussions on measures to improve the nation's state. Thereafter, the president departed Abuja for the 37th ordinary session of the African Union in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. From the presidential villa, Adesua Omoruan, Arise News.
All right, a big step forward in the quest for state police. Dr. Abati, your take on this story, not just state police, but food security as well.
Okay, a number of issues. I think it was good to see the president meeting with the state governors yesterday, given the situation in the country with food crisis, with high inflation, with insecurity. Yes, of course, such a meeting was necessary. And we're told that it was under the auspices of the Nigeria Governors Forum. Useful as that meeting is, as an opportunity for Nigerian leaders from the presidency to the state level to deliberate over major issues in the country. I think that it would probably have been a better idea to call a Council of State meeting I mean, a Council of State meeting will bring to the table more people, considering some of the issues that were being deliberated upon yesterday. The Council of State will include the President, the VP, all the state governors themselves, former heads of state, former presidents of Nigeria, Speaker of the House of Representatives, President of the Senate, the Attorney General of the Federation, and Minister of Justice, a more expanded, body. However, the function of the Council of State is advisory. It could have led to greater inclusivity in terms of the deliberations. That's the first point. The second thing has to do with the issues raised at that meeting. State police, which, the report by Adesua Omoruan started with. Yes, state police has been on the table for a very long time in this country, against the background of insecurity in the country. Between 2015 and 2023, when President Buhari left, the National Security Tracker on Nigeria by the U.S. Council on Foreign Relations said over 63,000 people, died in the course of that 8 years as a result of either banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, attacks, random violence in different parts of the country. And since President Tinubu took over, we have seen that, insecurity remains a problem. People cannot, go to their farms. There is the whole of the Middle Belt and the Northwest, more or less have been turned into killing fields. And so, the state of insecurity is a major problem. And so now the governors and the presidency, they are recommending state police. Well, state police was one of the major recommendations in the 2014 National Conference report. And that was also the whole idea that, security needs to be decentralized. As the report pointed out, the relevant issue will be an amendment of the Constitution, Section 214, subsection 1, which creates only one state police that is majorly answerable to the president of Nigeria. Every effort that has been made, community policing, decentralization by creating zones and all of that, those efforts have not really helped. And because of that, Nigerians are saying, let's have state police so that the governors can have more responsibility. And that's why, in some of the states, you find some of them setting up vigilante teams. You find all kinds of ad hoc security arrangements. So the argument is for a formal arrangement. But under Section 9, that will have to go through the National Assembly. The Constitution has to be amended. Then you need the concurrence of 2/3, of the various houses of assembly in the country. So it's not something that can be done overnight. However, what one would have expected would be, in fact, for the Tinubu administration to even go beyond state police and go back to some of the recommendations in that 2014 National Political Conference, a report which the Buhari administration did not even bother to look at, for reasons that we do not need to rehash. Maybe the Tinubu administration can go back to that report. Maybe what the Tinubu administration also needs to do is to go back to this long debate about the restructuring of Nigeria. Now, under the Buhari administration, committees were set up, reports were written, some efforts, some promises were made by the APC about restructuring. Maybe President Tinubu can really, do something really radical by going back to the issue of restructuring, which would, include state police, include the system of government, which is what people are arguing about at the moment, whether we should go back to the parliamentary system or not, and several other details, in the Constitution that will need to be reviewed or amended as the case may be. Now, there were other issues. Now, one or two reversals, U-turns, vote vast on the part of government. And I don't envy the Minister of Information, Mr. Mohammed Idris. It's a very thankless job when you have to speak for government, because sometimes you say one thing today, tomorrow they will ask you to go and say another thing. On February 8th, after the meeting of the Emergency Intervention Committee on Food Insecurity, the Minister of Information came forward and said, one of the things the government is considering is the importation of food to augment, the food supply in the country. In addition to the fact that government had decided to release 102,000 metric tons of food, 60,000 from government, 42, from the All Farmers Association. Now, February has not ended. The same government, speaking through the same person, now says, no, government has reversed itself. Government is not going to import food again. Of course, in that regard, government has the support of NASIMA, has the support of All Farmers Association of Nigeria. Well, what this indicates is that, the policy was announced February 8 without proper consultation with the stakeholders, without, really working out the modalities. So government reversing itself, it doesn't look really tidy. Second thing is that, not too long ago also, the vice president told us that government was considering the establishment of commodity boards to modulate prices, to promote competition and all of that. Now, it's not up to 1 month. The same government, as confirmed by the statement issued by Ajuri Ngelale, is saying the president of Nigeria says there will be no commodity boards and that government has no plan to modulate prices or, import food, that Nigeria has enough food supply. Okay, going back and forth on the same subject, it can be confusing. Now, we have the Nigerian commodity exchange, but that commodity exchange has never worked. Good ideas, but it has never worked, unfortunately. In fact, the president also said that he has no plan to set up a price control board. A price control board is a creation of law. And that was why Mr. Femi Falana, SAN, went to the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos, and the court ruled against the Price Control Board, against the Attorney General of the Federation, who was the second respondent in the matter, saying that the Price Control Act, is of 2004, is existing. And then said, government should move in and fix prices. Okay, economists may say you cannot fix prices. They may raise issues with that ruling. But what of the law? If government is not going to follow that law, then they should repeal it. Okay, so these are some of the issues. And then, the NSA was called in, the DSS, the IGP, to stop hoarders, from hoarding food and all of that. Again, all of that is about food security. But can we have more policy certainty? Can we have, consistency? Not that government will tell us one thing on February 8, and by February 15, February 16, government is saying another thing. I mean, what is the confusion all about? Different people saying different things on behalf of government.
Well, absolutely correct. Well, let me just touch on a few things, especially with regards to this this new development, or perhaps this positive development in the area of perhaps a realization on the establishment of state police. It's already been established that for this to happen, there must be a constitutional amendment. And during his campaign, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had actually mentioned that he was willing and committed to mobilize all resources to ensure that security was looked at as priority in Nigeria. And part of this effort, as you would see yesterday, was his invitation to the 36 governors of the country to have a sit down and discuss very critical issues around some of the big issues that are happening currently in Nigeria. Two of those, of course, national security, and of course, food security. Now, in area security, it looks like the governors, all 36 of them, are now moving towards an acceptance of state security, and there is an alliance or an agreement between the governors, subnationals, and the federal, which is the federal government, the president himself. There have been some concerns, and just to table those concerns, aside from the positives, one of which, of course, that following the security nature in terms of insecurity in Nigeria, one of the things is that state police and having it devolve to subnationals means that there's a better understanding of local issues and a better response to tackling these issues. This has been the contention for a number of times, that let the people, the state, handle its own security so that there's a better grasp, since there's a better understanding and engagement with the people. So it's police for the people, by the people in this instance. However, in saying that, There have also been arguments around, and these are critical issues to also to highlight. And the importance of this is that in the bid, as it's passed second read or in second reading in the House of Representatives, we must also begin to look at the architecture and begin to understand how we can ensure that in establishing state police, we have a strong system and it's not a place where it's abused and it goes against, it's counterproductive. So the first thing that's been highlighted, of course, is funding and the cost to the state. Will they be able to afford this? We've talked about how some states are more solvent than others. And it again brings a conversation that if a state is unable to secure itself, should it really be termed as a state? So this is a concern in terms of being able to fund state police. The second aspect of things, of course, is the concern around abuse of human rights, high-handedness of the police in these states, and also the fear that some of the state governors might then use these security actors as their own, to settle their own personal political scores. We've seen this happen during election time, even with the absence of state police currently, where a governor uses the actors of states to do his or her own bidding. This is something that's a big concern, that if this is devolved to subnationals, these are the concerns. So what are the mechanisms to put in place to ensure that this doesn't happen, despite the fact that it has been advocated for that in light of the current security realities, we must have state police? The other thing we must also look at is the success of some regional security outfits. We have, for instance, Amotekun. We have, at some point, Ibubeagu, even though the activities of unknown gunmen in the southeast have almost, silenced the efforts of Ibubeagu. But we must look at some lessons from them. To what extent has Amotekun been able to secure the lives and properties of people living in the environment, despite the limitations that some of them might have? So these are some critical questions to respond to. It's a big welcome on many fronts to begin to explore the idea of state police. But in order to ensure that it's successful, it's important to also look at some of the limitations that have been highlighted a number of times in order to mitigate these risks of having state police. Now, in terms of food security, no import. Of course, I can understand why this would be the case or why the presidency is taking this position. However, there have been concerns around the ability or the self-sufficiency in terms of food provision for us as a nation. The president has said a number of times that we have more than enough to provide. More than enough to provide for its people. But then the big question is then what is really going on? Who are these hoarders? Will they be investigated? And very importantly, when they're investigated, will there be punitive measures? In the same way that there are so many infractions at different levels, we hear announcements of them, but at the end of the day, nothing happens, no punitive measure, no punishment, and so there is an incentive to continue because there are no consequences. So beyond the announcements, there are people who are deliberately hoarding for perhaps to enhance profit. It is important to fish them out and very important to ensure that there are punishments or punitive measures to this extent. At the end of the day, Nigerians want to feel safe. Nigerians want to be able to eat food and to afford food to ensure that we have enough for the people to eat and to alleviate the hunger in the land. It's good to see that the president is having critical conversations and we're seeing announcements from this, but it's also important to see the benefit or the end point of these conversations and the action following these meetings. I know this is definitely one of many of such meetings that happen in the near future, but beyond the meetings that are happening, beyond just being a talk shop, it is how this translates to, one, security for the people of Nigeria, and two, food security and food in the tummy of the people of Nigeria. Move on to our next story. In a bid to enhance the quality of life for cancer patients in Nigeria, renowned veteran broadcaster Bimbo Oloyede, in anticipation of her 70th birthday celebration, has initiated a fundraising campaign aimed at supporting crucial research and treatment for cancer patients in public hospitals. Oloyede emphasizes the urgent need for assistance, highlighting the challenging reality faced by many cancer patients in Nigeria. She noted that numerous individuals battling cancer lack access to essential treatment and sustainable care, with new cases being diagnosed daily. She therefore appealed to the general public to generously donate to ease some of the discomfort of cancer patients in Nigeria.
As I speak, there are people who have cancer, but they don't have access to treatment, nor any type of hope of sustainable care. I've spoken to relevant stakeholders, oncologists, health practitioners, and new cases are being diagnosed at an alarming rate every clinic day in all the public hospitals. I am therefore convinced that I must do something significant to make life more comfortable for cancer patients. Although my birthday occurs during the Lenten season as well as the month of Ramadan, after due consideration, my family and I have decided to commemorate this milestone by raising 100 million naira for cancer research and the treatment of cancer patients in public hospitals. But of course, I can't do this alone. I ask the public to join me to do two things that will ease the discomfort of cancer patients, and I would like the benefits to be widespread and accessible, irrespective of financial standing.
Very noble efforts for her 70th birthday, Dr. Abati.
Most certainly, yes. You will recall that, each time we discuss cancer in Nigeria, we, complain about access to cancer treatment, which was one of the points Mrs. Oloyede was raising there, and it's very costly to get cancer treatment in Nigeria. I think the country has about 2 cancer centers, and Nigeria has a high prevalence of breast cancer, pelvic cancer, prostate cancer, and then, of course, treatment for cancer is very expensive. People go through chemotherapy, basic chemotherapy, you spend up about 2.3 million. If you have to do radiotherapy, that's about 360,000. Depending on the regime of treatment that you are offered, you could spend up to 30 million naira to treat cancer, and there is no guarantee that, the cancer patient will necessarily survive. That's why there's a lot that can be done in terms of awareness, because early diagnosis, early detection is always a good idea. And then, of course, government also needs to be, pressurized to invest more in cancer treatment, and cancer research. There is a National Cancer Institute, Cancer Research Institute in Nigeria. I don't know how functional that Cancer Research Institute is, but it exists. So government also needs to be, constantly reminded of the need to invest in this. And we've had some high-flying cases. You recall that when the former governor of Ondo State died, Governor Akeredolu, he had to go abroad for treatment. And some people were saying, cynically that, if Nigeria was a different place, it would have been possible to get quality cancer treatment in Nigeria, and neither he or any other person would not have to travel abroad. However, Mrs. Oloyede's effort deserves support. The fundraising, the awareness that she's creating is commendable. And there are quite a number of private efforts like hers in that direction. Every year you have a Cancer Aware Nigeria, organizing an event. They call it, is it Pink Walk? Or
yes, Pink, that's in October.
Pink something,
Pink October.
When, people wear pink and they go out there to promote cancer awareness. And you have other NGOs that are also involved in cancer research and cancer promotion. Because, look, it's not something anybody can run away from. It's part of the reality of life. And it should also be a wake-up call for government to see the need to invest more in public health. Health, being part of the responsibility of government to, in fact, make the nation itself healthy. Because it's when you have a healthy population that you can have a productive population. So we recommend Mrs. Oloyede's effort for the support of all and sundry.
Yeah, well, this is quite significant because February, 4th of February to be exact, is World Cancer Day. And yesterday, the 15th of February, was Child Cancer Day. So, and making this announcement and looking to raise 100 million naira to fund research, especially in cancer care in Nigeria, is excellent. And we must commend Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede for such a great effort towards her 70th birthday. A number of people remember her as a darling of the screen, a veteran, and still a veteran broadcaster who still trains younger broadcasters in terms of understanding the trade. And after giving so much, I think it's important to support this initiative. Usually when people approach a landmark age, they look forward to doing something significant to mark the age. She's chosen this route, and as Dr. Bati has highlighted, it is more than needed at this time. Usually one of the things that we talk about is a lack of statistics when it comes to cancer, the rate of cancer in Nigeria and the treatment of cancer in Nigeria. We're not anywhere close, especially when we look at the number of diagnoses and the number of deaths in a year of Nigerians due to cancer. It was reported yesterday that President Putin had said that they were fast approaching getting a cancer vaccine, and that was major headlines around the world because it is a scourge, not just in Nigeria, but around the world. And so we hope that she would realize the 100 million naira she's looking to fundraise and even surpass that. And congratulations and happy birthday in advance.